So first of all, hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm Jessie Ransom. I'm the product manager for Leganto, and I'm very excited to be presenting the roadmap highlights for 2025 for the next year. I'll be talking through a few of the bigger things that we'll be doing over the next year. But before we do that, I also want to just do a quick summary of a few things from 2024. I definitely won't cover everything, but I do want to talk about a few of the bigger things or the highlights or the things that you might have missed. I find that often when I go to conferences or when I talk to libraries, I'll mention something and they'll say, oh, I didn't know. So I just pulled out a couple of things just to highlight from the last year. We'll spend most of the time going through the plans for 2025 and some of the bigger features that we have planned for the year. And then I'll save time for questions. Don't feel like you have to wait. Feel free to put your questions in at any point. I have the chat open, so if I don't see it immediately, I should see it, a minute or two later. I think it's probably easier to ask your questions as I'm talking about, a specific thing. So feel free to do that. Feel free to wait, whatever works for you. With that, let's go ahead and dive right in. So first, we'll look at 2024, and the first thing that I just want to say is thank you. And this is specifically about the new UI project, although it's really a thank you in general. We are so pleased with the collaboration that the Leganto product team and the development team had with our community related to the new UI. We so appreciate the incredible effort that so many of you put into your testing, into the feedback that you shared with us, the things that you were willing to write down or to record or to pass on, collecting feedback sometimes from your users and sharing that. It's been just amazing to have such an incredible community of customers, and it really has felt like a partnership from our side. So we really, really do appreciate that. And I really wanted to say that, as we're kind of here at the end of the new UI project, if you will, I just wanted to say thank you. It's really been such a great year this last year, having the chance to talk to so many of you and to hear more about how you use the product and what you're doing and what you need has been just incredible from our side. So thank you for that. A couple of other things that I wanted to highlight. The first is the library view. So this is something that came out toward the end of last year, I think maybe around October or so. We did add a dedicated view for library staff. We heard from some of you that your processing work was less efficient in the new UI, which definitely wasn't our goal. So we did do some usability studies. We sat in with some of you as you were working and watched you work. And that led to, that plus the feedback that you had all shared led to this library view. So there's a couple nice things here. The one that I wanted to highlight is the one that's actually in the screenshot here, the option to set your item statuses to any status in the Leganto interface. And you can do that in bulk. So I think this is really nice. This is something that we had kind of been hearing rumblings about for a while. This is now available. And there's also some personalized configurations that are available in the library view as well for kind of setting up the system in the way that works best for you. We know that not everybody works in the same way, not everybody has the same tasks. So there's some new options for kind of setting things the way you want them to be to show you the information that you want to see as quickly as possible. There is a video here, so if you're not familiar with this, there's a video. A lot of these 2024 things do have a video, so you can take a look at that. I'll also talk about a couple of analytics dashboards. This one came out pretty early in 2024, so it kind of seems strange to me to do it as a wrap up, but just in case you missed it, there's a new out-of-the-box student usage dashboard. I think it has 6 different tabs, many different reports. If you're looking at student usage, maybe for the first time, or you want to just get this overview perspective, I encourage you to take a look at this because there's a lot of data here that you can look at or start with to give you an idea of how your students are engaging with the library and with Leganto. And the other big analytics dashboard that we released last year is the student savings dashboard. So for many of you, you may be using Leganto to really highlight the library collection, make it easy for students to use those library resources, make it easier for faculty to use library resources. I guess everybody is doing that with Leganto, but for some of you, it is also really nice to be able to show the affordability perspective. What does it mean for students that they don't have to pay for these things because the library makes them available? So there's a dashboard now that kind of lets you tell that story, and it is designed for storytelling purposes. There's some more detailed data, but we really wanted to look at kind of big picture data so that you can, like I said, show this story, share this information with your stakeholders, and really highlight the value that the library brings to students and to the broader institution. Another highlight here is I have kind of a joke on the slide here, the more detailed notifications. A couple of years ago, we released something called the detailed notifications letter, and now there's the more detailed notifications letter. Some of this came from conversations with you. I think some of this came from the ideas exchange as well, but we did get the feedback that when instructors receive this notification letter, it's not enough information for them and they have to go to Leganto to get the rest of the details, the full details or the more details. So there's a new letter available for Leganto. If you haven't taken a look at it, I encourage you to do so, because I think this is really nice to just have this additional information. What are the tags that are added? What was the specific note that was added? What is the specific comment in the library discussion? That information is now available in this email letter. And then this one is the last one that I'm going to talk about. I said I would keep this quick, but I want to talk about this one because it's actually quite small in terms of the UI, but it's very big in terms of the impact, I think, and what you can do with this. So you may have noticed that now when you're looking at items that aren't yet in your Leganto list, you have this more details link right here, and it opens up this screen. So it opens up the links and availability and the item details. And this is really nice because previously you couldn't actually tell what this was or if it was the right thing until you added it to your list. So now you can. So as librarians or as your instructors are running a search in the library, they can actually go and access the resource before they add it to the list and make sure it's the right thing. If they're using the suggestions, they can take a look at that item and see if they want to add it before they add it to their list. This is really all throughout the system. Again, really nice. Cited, I think, is also really nice here. Cited is the way that you can pull resources in from the web. And the language is a little bit different in Cited. I think it says check availability instead. And when you open it up, it opens up the links and availability. This is really nice because if I start on Amazon, for example, and I find a book on Amazon and I think I want to add it to my course, I can actually go and see the library link. I could access the resource through the library and evaluate it before I put it into Leganto. So I really wanted to highlight this. Again, very small in terms of, it's 2 words here, but really nice in terms of the impact that this has. And that's it. Those are the only things I'm going to talk about. Certainly not the only things that we did in 2024. We have the full release notes. If you are really excited to go back for a full review, you can do that. If you don't have time for a full review of the last year, I really encourage you to take a look at these What's New videos. There's usually 1 or 2 per month, and we're just highlighting the biggest things or the bigger things, the things that maybe help to see it in a workflow. Maybe they're more complex to configure. We create these videos. So if you want to get sort of the big picture view of what we did over the last year or the last several years, you can always go and take a look at these What's New videos. I also wanted to update on a few things that were on the previous roadmap that I think were scheduled for 2025. Originally, when we had kind of a longer term view of what we thought we would be doing. The first one is mixed panel analytics. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. Primo is adding mixed panel analytics into Primo. These screenshots are actually from the Primo analytics, but mixed panel is really about like user journeys. So being able to see in the data I'm just looking at the one here. I started a session, I ran my search, I went to the full display, I placed a hold, or requested something. So you can kind of see that journey. You can see the percentage of users that follow specific journeys. It's really exciting. It's really cool. But when we started to evaluate this for Leganto, uh, we kind of ran into not being able to find enough use cases. We couldn't find enough places where you might make changes based on the data that you saw here, or you might, promote your system in a different way based on the data that you saw here. So we ultimately decided that it wasn't worth the investment in Mixpanel for the value that you all would get out of it. So we've decided not to do that one. The Alma new layout, the move to the Alma new layout, this is just postponed. We certainly will do this at some point. You've probably seen the Alma new layout if you work in Alma in different places in the system, the PO lines, the title search, let's see what else, analytics, I think, has been moved to it. So the Alma team is working through various parts of the system. So the course reserve section is just postponed. It's not that we won't do this. I'm excited to do it. There's a lot of really cool things that we'll be able to do once we make that move, but it won't happen this year. So I just wanted to set those expectations. Okay, but now looking forward into what we will do this year, I broke down, I wanted to lay out for you these different themes. And these are the things that we're thinking about when we're thinking about Leganto in general. We're thinking about the value that it brings to you at the institution. We're thinking about things in terms of the library efficiencies, streamlining your workflows, looking for more automation in the system, helping you get more return on investment for your collection. We're always wanting Leganto to support that. We want it to support you. We want you to get a lot of value out of the system. The second one is actually tied to that very, very closely, which is adoption. So we know that you get more value out of Leganto, you at the library get more value out of Leganto when more instructors use it. So we also want to think about ways that we can help drive adoption. And here we're thinking about things like streamlined workflows for your instructors, for your end users, for your students, adding in additional features to add more value for instructors. Essentially, we want to make it easier for them to use the system, but we also want to keep them there once they start. We want to give them, a reason to keep coming back, give them value out of the product. And ultimately, this is, like I said, about increasing usage, increasing the number of courses that are using Leganto, the number of instructors using it, which ultimately, of course, increases the number of students as well. So this is going to be a big focus for us. This has always been a focus for us, but this will be a big focus for us over the next year. We're also thinking always about student engagement. And, of course, Leganto is about providing access to resources. So, we always want to think about, things that we can do to improve that, to provide, the right options for the students, to make sure that they can get to them easily. In some parts of the world, this is also very closely tied to affordability. So students can access the resources because they can afford to do that, because they're available through the library, for example, or they're openly available without having to pay. So I have that kind of under this area of student access. And ultimately, the goal here is to promote student learning. We want students to be able to get to the resources that they need to learn the content for the course. So we're also always thinking about it from that perspective. And then analytics is kind of sitting behind everything that we do. But when we're thinking about, what we can do, from a higher level with analytics, the goal is really that you're able to leverage the data for decision making. There's tons and tons and tons of data in analytics. Everything that we do, we add more data into analytics, but there's a lot there. So we want to make it easier for you to work with that data and to use that data in a productive way. And we also want you to be able to use that data to demonstrate your library's impact, to demonstrate your value, to be able to, easily speak to the role that the library plays, the impact that the library plays. So these are kind of Leganto themes in general. When I compared this to what I had presented a year ago for 2024, it's very similar. I had kind of the categories laid out slightly different, but it's similar. So this has kind of always been what Leganto is, but it's also, you know, the focus for this year. And the goal is really, with everything that we do, that we want to expand the role of the library as a partner to teaching and learning. We want the library to be kind of integrated into the teaching and learning workflows, to be offering a lot of value to teaching and learning, to make it easy to use those resources and the services available from the library. That's generally the goal with Leganto, and that's what we're really focused on this year, is the ways that we can expand the impact of the library, the reach that you have, the visibility that you have, and make sure that that's an integrated part of the teaching and learning, you know, processes and flows. So that's really kind of where we're coming from as I'm presenting some of the different things here. Now I'll go through what we're actually going to do. And the first one, I think many of you may already be aware of what is coming as part of the customer enhancement process. Some of this is already out and some of it's not. So I just wanted to provide this slide, which has the dates that you can expect to see those enhancements this year. So the public access model message in Leganto is already out. That came out in January. The set view on link for citations came out in February, so that's out as well. The ability to choose which citation tags to copy, half of this is out. The kind of back-end piece for the bulk rollover is available in February, but the instructor rollover piece is available in March. And then the undo button or the recycling bin, this will be available in March. That's the screenshot that we're looking at here. This is really nice. I really like this. I've gotten to play with it a little bit, and I'm excited. I'm excited about this one. And then the last one is the increase the number of page range fields for book extracts. So it's up to 10 page ranges. So most of the development for this is done, but we'll release it in the May release. That's when we'll wrap it all up. So those are all coming or already out. The other thing that's kind of tied to this process this time is the clipboard. So the clipboard, something that's available, that was available in the classic UI. Some of you really desperately missed it in the new UI. So we have added this back in. It came in the February release, so it's now available for you to use. As part of the design for this, we didn't necessarily want to do just exactly what we had in the old UI. So many of you sat down with us and again, you know, showed us how you work, showed us how you're processing lists, what you need. So the clipboard is based on those interactions that we had with you guys or with some of your colleagues. So it's really nice for moving items within long lists. Parking items, I really like this. Parking items when you're moving them around. Somebody used this language, but you know, I have a list with 200 items. This thing doesn't belong in section 1, but I'm not yet down to where it does belong. So the ability to park them. And then something that you couldn't do in the classic UI, but you can do in the new clipboard is copy items multiple times. So if I have, you know, here chapter 1 and here chapter 6 and here chapter 8, you know, you can copy that item multiple times from the clipboard. And you can also move and copy things across lists now. So if I'm using, you know, just chapter 3 in this course and I'm also using it in a different course, you can copy them from the clipboard. So there's some new options as well. The other thing that I think many of you know is coming is the Cite It browser extension. We've been hearing the request for a browser extension for a long time. Instead of the bookmarklet that we had or have currently for Leganto. The thing that really pushed this over the edge for us is that some sites stopped supporting our Cite It functionality the way that it was working. The biggest one was YouTube. That's the one that we heard about the most anyway. So we have been working on a Cite It extension. The first one will be available for Chrome in March. So that's coming just around the corner here. We developed it. It's been accepted by Google. So that'll be available in March. And then we'll work through the other browsers. I did meet with the product working group yesterday, and they also pushed me for Safari. I am not going to comment on that today, but I did want to acknowledge it, that you know, we heard this on the listserv, and I also heard it yesterday. So we'll take a look into that and see what's involved there. But this is coming, we're working through them, but the first one, the Chrome one, will be available in March. It works, once you've installed it, it works almost exactly the same as the site that we have today. In fact, it may actually be exactly the same as what we have today. It's just installed as a plugin instead of a bookmarklet. So I think that probably wraps up the things that you already know about or might already know about. So I do also want to talk about some copyright enhancements. We are working through some enhancements to support the bulk integration in that's used in Norway. So there's a few different things that we'll be working on in the first half of the year. And then we're also working with the DCS. The DCS is working on a new API. And I think this will be really nice for those of you who are using the DCS. They will be supporting a similar structure to what we have in Leganto. So you can have one course or one list that's linked to multiple courses. They don't support that. They haven't supported that up to now, and it's resulted in, some challenges as we're sort of translating our data into their data. But they're working on a new API, so we will kind of reconnect Leganto with the DCS using this new API. So that will come later in the year as well. The next one here is something I'm really excited about, the Leganto data integrated into Rialto. We're working closely with the Rialto team on some improvements for people who are purchasing materials for courses. Rialto is the marketplace that sits inside of Alma to help streamline the purchasing workflows. So there's going to be more data available inside of Rialto about Leganto. So you'll be able to search the marketplace for with a flag for things that are on Leganto reading lists. We're also looking at things that have specific tags. If you wanted to see the essential tags for things that are on reading lists, being able to refine to future courses or current courses, depending on what you're looking for. So this is all data that's going to be in the Rialto side. And then we're also looking at the workflow that happens after you make the purchase. So if you purchase something for a Leganto list, obviously we want that to link that back to the citation. We want to update the metadata for that citation. And we also want to be able to do this in bulk. So today, if you're purchasing something, it's really only linked to the citation where you started from. But we want to be able to kind of look at all of the citations and say, actually this book is used in 3 courses, and update all of them. So there'll be a workflow component of this kind of on the Alma side, as well as the data inside of Rialto. So again, I think this will be really nice for those of you who are using Rialto to purchase course materials. There'll be a lot of really nice options there. And the other one is going to be on the Leganto side, within Leganto. You guys have been asking about this for years and years. I think when we went back, it was like at least 3 different NARS requests that had to do with this. But we do now, finally, with Rialto, have the data about the newest editions for a title. They have this for a number of their records. It's not actually all of the records, but it's enough of them that we'll be able to take advantage of that. So we're looking into adding the indication in Leganto when there's a newer edition that's available for purchase. So this will be, an indication of that information, and also, again, a workflow that kind of stems from this. Something like you see here, all of my screenshots are just mock-ups. They may not look like this. They probably will be different than this, but I wanted to give you kind of a visual of this to help me talk through it. So something like, request purchase and add to list, or add to list and request purchase, to sort of trigger those next steps once you do find something that's available here. So again, really exciting that we finally can do this. We're really looking forward to this as well. The next thing is really kind of digging into more library processing workflows. This is actually coming in March, so you'll be able to do, I kind of think of this as the manual locate that we have in Alma, but it'll be in the Leganto interface. So you can take a citation and you can manually link it or relink it to something in your library collections. It does a search based on the title and the author. You can change the search if you need to, but you can scan everything that's available and pick a specific thing. This is really nice. It includes all of the Central Discovery Index records. So this would include articles, streaming video, anything that you could find by searching the library directly, you can find it this way. The idea is that you'll be able to, if an instructor puts in kind of very limited metadata for something, you can just link it to the library collection and get all that metadata added. So you don't have to go in and type it in yourselves. This came out of that research that we did as part of the library view, where we watched you work. We saw you typing in a lot of extra metadata. So this is a flow to help kind of streamline that process for you. The next one here is, let's see, there's a question in the chat. Can you use the link or relink item to connect book chapters to a book metadata? If you have the book chapters in the discovery index, if they're discoverable as chapters, yes, you would be able to do that. So you could take a book and you could relink it to a chapter. Will a link relink to library be available to instructors? Right now, it's only available to the library. I'll talk about that a little bit more. I'll actually show you. I'll do a demo of this so you can see it in action. I'll talk about our plans for instructors. I see a lot of questions about this coming in now. I think, let me go into the next piece because I'll actually do a little bit of a demo and I can talk a little bit more about this as part of that process. So what I actually want to demo is the next one, which is the big one, which I think many of you have been hearing about for a long time now, the option to import a syllabus to create a list. A year ago, when we did this roadmap presentation, we talked about this as a proof of concept. We've been talking about it as a proof of concept for a long time, and I'm very, very, very happy to say that we are now putting it in the product. It's no longer a proof of concept, it's actually working, and it's working quite well. So this is what I want to actually show you so you can see this in action. So let me stop sharing there, and I'm in a Leganto development environment here. So this is actually the April release that we're looking at right now. And the syllabus upload or the syllabus import, I'm going to import this file, and then I'll talk a bit more about what's happening here. So let me just get this. So this is a file that might be an example of the type of thing that you'd be able to import here. It doesn't have to look like this, but we're testing lots of different types of files. But it has information, in this case, information about the course, the learning objectives, the attendance requirements, whatever it may be. And then somewhere in this file, sometimes all in one section, sometimes spread throughout, sometimes in a table, there'll be references to materials that are relevant for the resource list. And so what we're doing is we're using AI to scan the file and find these references. So to find all of them, they don't have to be in any sort of reference format. The ones that are on here, you can kind of see there's a little bit of a variety. This one here just says watch video, and it has a link to the YouTube video. I actually created this file. One of our early access customers had a similar course, a course on the history of tea, but I used AI to create a different version, and they're different resources than what they were using. But it has kind of a variety, and this is what we're seeing. Sometimes the references are like this, sometimes it's like, Henry chapter 4 or, whatever. Sometimes there's a lot of information, sometimes there isn't, but it's working with all different types of files. If we go back over here, I can show you the results that we got on the Leganto side. So it scanned that file, it found 18 items in the list, and you can see now that it turned this into a list. So it really is turning a file, turning in syllabus or another type of file into a Leganto list, including the structure. We're able to pull the sections out of the file. I love this. We didn't think we would be able to do that piece actually, but it's obviously so much more efficient, and it also really aligns with the students. Like, this is how the instructors kind of organize this for their students. So it's pulling this information in. And it's also attempting to link it to the library. So this one here, link to the library, collection. We can scroll down. I have some book chapters, some books. It's pulling in these notes. So sometimes there are notes, read certain pages, read certain chapters. We'll read this book over the first 4 weeks. So there's different kinds of notes that might come in. This is the one that was just the watch this video. So it pulled in the link, but it actually went out and pulled that title as well. So this is the title coming from YouTube for this video. So it's bringing in what it can, and it's sometimes doing a little bit extra depending on the situation. But this is something we're really, really excited about. As you can see here, I've got 18 items, and it took me a few minutes, a minute maybe, to get all of these into Leganto. When we spoke with a few design partners who kind of helped us figure out the right way to do this, and a couple of them said this is more like a rollover, like I'm just checking the list instead of starting from scratch. So I think that's a nice way to think about this, is I have the list and I'm just kind of going through it now to check it. As part of this, we also did build out some new a new resource locate option. So it'll first try to link by the ISBN, if there is one, but some of the files we looked at do have ISBNs, many of them don't. So we also added an option to link by the title, author, and year, which is actually what happened in this case. But this is where you could think about also that manual locate flow. So if I have one that didn't link, now you can see here the manage link to library option. So now it is running that search for me, and I'll go scoop up a few of the questions previously. So one of the questions that came through was if I could relink to a book chapter. So this is now just a search. I could filter this. I could change my search if I wanted to. I could change my scope if I wanted to. There's a question here about if we could exclude CDI as part of this process. You could certainly change your search if you had a search that we have one that's print only or library catalog. You could certainly change this, but this is just the default scope for my library, for my Leganto here. But you can see the year here is 1906. I don't have a 1906 version of this, but I can see these other options. Here's that more details that I just mentioned as well, if I wanted to go actually access this item and see what it was. But now I can just link this. So it linked it to the library, and now we have all of these linking options here. There's a couple more questions here. Is this just a Word document? So let me go back to actually, let me just scan through a few of these. There's a couple questions about the newer edition, which I'll come back to in a minute, but I do see them. Let me go back to the slides here, and I'll talk about the plans for this feature. So you're looking at the April release right now. We have a couple of kind of early access customers who are building lists in March. March, if your library builds a lot of reading lists in March, please let me know. We're looking for people who do, and it's been trickier to find people who are very busy building lists in March, but a lot of this functionality is available in March. Not all of it though, but we'd like to have some libraries testing it. Initially, it will support PDF, Word documents, and text files, and you can also paste references. So you can see this in the screenshot here. The people that we worked with said, I don't always get a file, sometimes I get an email. And we didn't want you to have to like copy from your email, put it in a file, and then load the file. So this is just the option to just cut and paste, basically paste them in. It does also support multiple languages. We did most of our testing in English, but we did some testing in other languages as well. To the extent that I can read other languages, it is working very well. Any limitations there are really limitations on what the large language models are able to do. But from the testing that we did do, it is not only supporting English, it's supporting other languages. We didn't test every single language, so you'll have to do that and see. But The first release will be kind of a beta release, and it will be just for library staff. So we want you to be able to play with this, to test this, to see how this works. You know, would I be able to use this to do my work, to build this list, to do whatever? Am I comfortable sharing this with instructors? We want you to be able to kind of make those evaluations as well. And then the phase 2 of this is that instructors will be able to upload files. The functionality will be the same, but we also need to think about the workflow for this. I think when, you know, it's the library staff, it's easy for you to understand or to learn that, okay, this one didn't link, let me link it, let me check. But when it's instructors, we want to be able to kind of walk them through that process so they don't just upload the file and get stuck. We want to think about a workflow here, like a wizard type approach. Again, this is just a mock-up. It probably won't be like this, but I just wanted to kind of, you know, show what we're sort of thinking about. We want some sort of process where they could understand what the next step might be. Of course, recognizing that you all have different processes and different ways that you work with your instructors, but we don't want to just like load the file and then be done. So we are looking at a workflow before this will be available to instructors. This actually gets back to that question about the manual locate or the link to the library. Initially, that link to the library is only available to the library, but it will be something that we think about as part of this process. What makes sense from the instructor perspective. And the other thing that we'll add in phase 2 is the option to paste references to existing sections. What you saw today and what we'll have initially is really the ability to start from scratch. So I don't have anything already and I'm starting with this file and I'm loading it in. But we know that often that's not actually the situation that you're in. You do have a list from last year, or they have a list from last year. So we want to add the option to just, you know, copy and paste, like these 3 references go in section 4 and these 6 references go in whatever. So we want to add that option as well. Okay, I saw lots of questions pop through. I think very few of them will have ISBNs. Yes, that's what we found as well. Okay, let me keep going. I think I got most of the ones about this, and I just looked at the clock. So let me keep going. I'll come back to the questions that I haven't addressed so far. I can see that there's many about Rialto, but I'll come back to those. The next thing, and this is also a big thing, is OER recommendations in the system. And we kind of see this as, in many ways, the next step of the syllabus workflow. So I've uploaded this file, you're pulling in all of the resources that I already know I'm going to use, and we want to, from there, be able to make recommendations for additional things that you might want to consider adding to your course. So we have the proof of concept for this already. This is also using AI. It uses AI to scan a syllabus and identify the themes of the course, the main topics of the course, and then from there make recommendations that align with those different topics. Again, just a mock-up, may not look like this, but we really want to promote the usage of open educational resources, resources that are openly available, that are open for editing purposes, really great for instruction. So we want to highlight those really great and valuable resources, help instructors find these alternatives to textbooks as well. Leganto is a great place to do that. This can be a really difficult process and it's often supported by the library. So we believe that this really aligns with what a lot of you are already doing to help promote the usage of open educational resources. So this will be something that we'll be working on for the second half of the year, putting these recommendations into Leganto. And there's some different things that'll happen kind of behind the scenes to help build out this workflow. You know, where do instructors expect to see such recommendations or suggestions? How does it fit in with their workflows? We'll be doing a lot of research into those processes as part of this, but again, something we're really excited about for what it means for, you know, OER and being able to find different types of materials that faculty can use in their courses. The next one here is an integration with Alethea. I realize that many of you may not be familiar with Alethea, so actually let me skip ahead here. I'll talk just for a minute about Alethea in general. Clarivate acquired a startup a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, that's in the teaching and learning space. It's really cool. The idea is that the instructor can create an assignment, a reading assignment. So they have some sort of reading material and they want to assign this to their students. They can create an assignment. You can add questions to the reading. So you can say, I want my students to understand this, or I want to ask this specific question. You can use AI to generate those questions. And actually, from what I hear from the Alethea team, every instructor that uses Alethea is actually using the AI questions. You can write your own, but you can use the AI ones or start with the AI ones. So you can build that out. And then from the student side, they see the reading, they see the questions, they can go through and highlight the text as they work through it. And they can also tie the highlights to specific questions. So they can kind of organize their thoughts, organize the reading in that way. And then, another piece that's really exciting is that it comes with this academic coach. This is very small. I actually have a bigger screenshot on the other slide, but it sits kind of alongside the reading, alongside the student, and can help them think through it. So, I see that you highlighted this section for this question. Why? What do you think about that? What are you thinking? It's sort of encouraging the student to think more deeply about their reading, to engage more deeply with their reading. And then the instructor can also see the data. So they can see, what the students are reading, that they're reading, which parts they're highlighting, where they might be getting stuck, what those interactions might look like with the academic coach. So it's a really great way to encourage, this deep reading, this deep thinking, really engaging with these resources. And for some of you, this might be sounding a little bit familiar. It's also very closely tied to some of the things that we are doing with Leganto. Both of these products are absolutely within the teaching and learning space. We want to support institutions who have both Leganto and Alethea. We want to be able to pass users from one system to the other. We don't want you to have, a list of resources in their Leganto and then you load them all again into Alethea, for example. So we want to provide a joint solution here. And this joint solution will support both the access to the resources that you're getting from Leganto, but also the engagement with the resources that you're getting from Alethea. I think we're nearing the end here, so I'm gonna actually save the questions that are coming through till the end. Alethea is tied to, giving instructors more value, this integration here, also the student engagement, kind of fostering that deeper learning. And this one is about the students as well, providing a space for student exploration within Leganto. Leganto today is very, very good at giving students exactly what has been assigned to them, but we're also looking at kind of building out more channels for this exploration. So if the students are interested in, other formats and editions, I think is a very obvious one. If you have this in Pride and Prejudice as a great example, I'm supposed to read this. I, can see that the library has 6 different ones. Maybe it doesn't matter exactly which one I read. I can go see all of the different ones that are available. We're also planning to expose the recommendations that are already available in Leganto. So the BX article recommendations and the shelf browsing recommendations. If you want to expose those to students, you'll be able to. This also involves adding that more details button to the student view so that students can access these resources. They don't have the ability to add them to the list, so they need to be able to access them in order to do anything with them. So we'll be adding the more details link to this, like you're looking at on the slide here, but also to the suggestions, to the favorites when they're searching for things. So that more details and the ability to go to the resource will be available for students as well, so they can kind of explore beyond the assigned things. Okay, so I have just a couple about analytics. The first one here is the ability to see citations by publication country. Some of you may have just seen that Alma released something similar that is about your collection by publication country. So we want to scope that down to look at the course materials so that you'd be able to see kind of a global view, of all of the things that are on our resource list, where are they published? You can kind of see the diversity of the resources in that way. You'll be able to scope this down to specific academic departments. So if you want to explore more deeply, I know some of you are doing this in different ways. Explore more deeply, what is on your reading list, how diverse the materials are. You'd be able to see that kind of information. You'd be able to compare different academic departments. So this is something that will be available within analytics that will let you kind of look at the big picture view of what's being taught in courses in, I think, a really interesting way. And the other bigger analytics dashboard that we're looking at are the workflow reports. This is something that I really wanted to do last year, but the data behind the scenes ended up being much more complex than I could have possibly imagined. So we're still working on this for this year. But the goal is really that you can get an understanding of your library workflows, your processing workflows, looking at things like how many readings are complete by the first day of class, how long does it take us to process a list after it's been submitted. You'll be able to see this information, you'll be able to see averages, what types of things take longer, you'd be able to see that. How efficiently are we working, where are the spaces where it's not as efficient, what percentage of things complete automatically compared to requiring library processing. As I said in the beginning, we want you to be able to work very efficiently with Leganto, and part of that is actually being able to measure the places where it is working efficiently and isn't working efficiently. So that's really the goal here. And then this is actually my last slide. Not really a feature, but it is something that I always want to talk about, is kind of where we are with accessibility. Last year, we released a VPAT for the new UI, and this came out maybe in July or so, sometime in the middle of the year, and there were a number of things that were listed as partially supported. So this is all available on our Knowledge Center if you want to take a look at it. We've fixed all the things that were listed as partially supported. I think one of them is going to be fixed with the Primo Next Discovery experience. But we're kind of just about to begin another round of audits. We work with DQ Systems for auditing and for our VPAT, so we're about to begin another round with them. It will be a WCAG 2.2 audit this time, level A. I also saw some questions in the chat about this, or sorry, double A. So it's double A that we're looking at. So we actually had DQ test Leganto for WCAG 2.2 last year. They identified a few things that we're fixing or have fixed for different things. So we think we're in a good place here. We will, again, go through that process and we'll publish that VPAT when it becomes available. I'll also say accessibility is always, kind of factored into what we're doing, and we've made some enhancements, if you will, with the way that we work with accessibility with our development team and our product team. We're working with accessibility from the very beginning, thinking about how to make features accessible, how to make flows accessible. This has always been like a focus of Ex Libris, but we're really pushing this now, into 2025 as well. Of course, we want the product to be accessible to everybody, to your users. We know that that's really important to you as well. So this is definitely a focus for us. I'll just summarize by saying, there's a couple of really big things that we have planned for this year. We're really excited about them. We're excited also about, what this means in terms of kind of what I was talking about in the beginning, the value to instructors, the value to the students, the value to the library. We're really excited about, being in a position with Leganto where we can do these kind of big things in the product and add a lot of kind of new functionality. I think last year, especially with the new UI, we did like a lot of little things to sort of help get to the point where you were all comfortable with the new UI and comfortable moving. So we're excited to be in a position now to do some really exciting things with Leganto. Okay, I'm going to scroll through the questions now. I can see that there are a lot, so I'll get through as many as I can. There are some questions about accessibility. By spring 2027, you need to be able to comply. Are there any steps we're making to aid us in compliance with CAG 2.1? I think I addressed this. We will be releasing the VPAD as soon as we have it. We're always working with accessibility. We test the product every month internally as well for accessibility. So I don't see anything in this question that I haven't kind of addressed, but let me know if I missed something. There's a question also about working with Blackboard Ally, which is a tool that helps make files accessible, helps make courses accessible. You'll feel they'll go that route rather than use Leganto. What we have with Leganto up to now is that the interface for Leganto is accessible. Some of the feedback that I've received from libraries is that Leganto in general, it makes course materials more accessible because it relies on linking largely. So you're linking out to library content. Library content, I know depending on the provider, but library content largely is very accessible content. So that's some of the feedback that we've gotten, is that it's providing the mechanism to link to this content on the vendor through the vendor provider, as opposed to having to rely on uploaded files and scans inside the course and things like that. Okay, let's see, book chapters I talked about. So there's some questions about Rialto. So will the newer edition of Rialto show when an ebook of a print book is available to buy? I don't know for sure, but this is, I think, something that you would probably be able to do with the more data in Rialto. I'm not absolutely positive. We haven't done this yet, so I can't say exactly how it's going to be, set up. But the idea is that I'm only hesitating because it may not be a new edition if you have an ebook or a print book or whatever. But the idea is that you would have the data and the data about what's being used in courses and the data about what's available in Rialto. The data also, Rialto already has data about what's available in your repository inside of Alma already. So the idea is that you'll be able to see all of this information in one place. Our faculty want to know the estimated arrival time of physical materials. Will this information be available in the Rialto integration? It's not something that we're looking at as part of what we're working on with Rialto right now. So not to say it's not possible, but it's not something that we have currently planned that you'd be able to see when a physical item would arrive. It would be useful to have the newer edition available flag ready for when the syllabus import option is working. Most reading lists usually have a lot of old editions in them. That's really great feedback to hear. Thank you for sharing. I'll take that into consideration. We're kind of working on both of them at the same time, so I don't know which one will come first. We're sort of tackling them all simultaneously, but this is really good feedback that would be something that you would want to take into consideration. Of course, when the syllabus feature comes out, it will be a flag. You'll be able to decide if you want to turn this on, turn it on for library staff, if you want to turn it on for instructors. That will certainly be up to you. So you'll be able to have control over when you release these different options. But I'm glad to hear that. There's some, let's see. You mentioned you're looking for test cases for the syllabus in March. Individual cases are okay. Are you looking for a minimum number of syllabi from the institution? My email address is on the slide here. I would say, please send me an email. If you have any interest, I can talk to you more about what we're looking for and what we need in March. Essentially where we are is most of the development for this is done. We want to have libraries very, very seriously testing it before we release it to everybody in case there's some gigantic disaster that we don't know about yet. So it's almost a confirmation. This testing process will be kind of a confirmation that it is indeed working as well as we think it's working before we release it to everybody. That's really what we're looking for. So we're looking for people who can do some testing, a significant amount of testing, enough that we'd be able to identify problems in the system. But reach out if you're not sure if that's you or not. I'd be very happy to talk to you about it. So just get in touch. Will any of Alethea come with Leganto, or is this an add-on for an additional price? Alethea is a different product. It's a separate product, and the intention is that it will stay a separate product. So that Alethea functionality that I talked about is not going to be included in Leganto. What we're building out is an integration between the two, so that when you're working with both systems, you have a smooth workflow across the two. For the OER workflow, are you developing this alone, or are you working with Scylla? They're a startup company. We're not working with Scylla. Same thing, maybe feel free to reach out to me if you want to share more information about it. Somebody at Clarivate actually developed this proof of concept, and she had been kind of testing this with as a proof of concept. So that's where ours is coming from. But I'd be happy to hear more about what you're doing related to OER. So feel free to reach out. Is the OER recommendation tied to the syllabus upload, or can it scan an existing list to make recommendations? I can't say for sure what we're going to do with the OER and where the recommendations are going to come from. I don't know this information yet. We are, longer term, the longer term strategy is to be able to look at maybe recommendations generally, recommendations that align with your course, that align with the resources that you already have. I don't know exactly what we'll do in kind of the initial rollout of this, but this question about the syllabus upload, or we'll look at what you already have, is certainly something that we're thinking about. We know it works from a syllabus upload, so we know that that is a starting point that is working. We'll certainly look at other options as well. And then there's a lot of comments here. Students want to be able to filter lists by online format, and several people chiming in to agree. Yes, we hear you. It's very possible that as part of some of these big things, the syllabus upload is a big flow. The OER recommendations is a big flow. We also do need to think about the way that the data is structured underneath the hood. What we want is that ultimately you could potentially load every single syllabus at your institution and create a Leganto list, but we know that that needs to also align with the library workflows and what you'd be able to see on the other side. So I'm not going to necessarily comment on this specific question, but we hear you. We know that there are places where you can't do what you want to be able to do because of the way that the data is structured inside of Alma, as it was built out 10 years ago, if you will, 15 years ago even. So we are aware of this. It's something that's kind of always in mind as we're thinking about the right way to roll out some of the newer, bigger things with Leganto. There's also a comment about subsections. I just talked to the product working group yesterday, and I heard that this is one of the curve requests, the customer enhancement request voting. I don't remember what it stands for. So vote for it. I encourage you to vote for it if you want subsections. It is a very big development, and it's a lot of complexity from our side. But I do know that that's going to be. I know that that was submitted as part of the process for this year. Will instructors see any improvements to the Leganto analytics this year? Thank you for the comment as well about the new things that are coming and the things that have already come. I don't know for sure. So I'm sharing today kind of the big things. I have been using the phrase like, I'm not going to say it. So I'm sharing today the big things. We also have a long list of kind of the smaller things that we're thinking about fitting in different places. Analytics right now, I'll be honest, we probably won't touch it immediately because, as you know, we've been having some issues with the way that the reports are displaying and the data that's displaying. So we don't want to build out something huge on top of it until we can get all of this ironed out. But we are aware of the interest in more instructor analytics. There's only two more, so I'm going to run over. I see it's the top of the hour. Content and pagination varies between editions. Yes, absolutely. And we heard this when we talked to faculty as well, that sometimes, or instructors, they said, I don't want to use the new edition because it doesn't have this chapter that's critical to my course. So we're thinking about this new editions as something that's kind of generally within the control of the instructor, whether they want the new edition, whether they want to request the new edition, that kind of thing. And then the last one here, will the syllabus import be an option that's clearly presented in the quick start screen? Yes. Initially, no, because it's only to the library, but when this is released to instructors, we want to make it very obvious. We do believe that this will be the best place to start for instructors, and we want that to be a very obvious starting point. I took 1 extra minute. I'm sorry for that, but we did get through all the questions, which I wasn't sure we would do. Thank you so much to all of you for your time, for joining, for your questions, for your engagement, for your engagement with us all the time, with Leganto in general. Like I said, it's very, very nice for us. Please do feel free to reach out. My email's here. I think most of you can reach me anyway. But again, just thank you. Bye, everybody.